Hello everyone, how are we doing? Me, Mr. Flynn, back at it again for Tier 3, round number 2 at Qatar tonight. And Webby, how you doing, my friend? Hello, hello, hello. And surprisingly, I believe Greenhorn, sorry, is not available tonight. He's quite busy with some IRL things. So joining me tonight, one of my good old buddies, good old Mr. Darkness. Mr. Darkness, how are you doing today? You know, you excited for Tier 3? I don't think you've seen much of the racing action. I'll tell you though, the racing action here in Tier 3 is amazing. Right now it is.
I'm not too bad, thanks. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I've seen the PC racing, and if that's exciting, I imagine console can be a lot more fun because everyone will be on an equal playing field.
That is very true. Everyone at WOR in Tier 3 are very equal. Like, I believe last race we had about I think it was 30 milliseconds or somewhat separating the top 4 at Spa last race. So that was quite intense to watch. As we know, Qatar, a very tight and tricky circuit. If you want, Darkness, why don't you give us a quick debrief and description of what Qatar's actually like and what we're going to expect tonight, maybe, you know? Stuff like that, really.
Well, Qatar has, I believe, a 70% average throttle input for the entire duration of the circuit. So it's a very fast, high-speed track with a lot of corners, exciting corners though, with a lot of drivers saying that I believe their favourite sector being the third one, and I think everyone can understand why, because it's just a quick right-hander, 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 and a swift flick to the left as well to finish it out. Maximum speed around this circuit is 321 kilometers per hour, so a very, very fast-paced track with a grand total of 16 corners and around about 36 gear changes a lap. I bet you didn't know that much about this circuit.
To be honest, thinking of it now, no, I did not. That sounds absolutely, what should I say, just insane, like how crazy how many turns there are, twists and turns, and just like you said, just so many turns, high speed corners. So overtaking opportunities, where on earth are they going to be, do you think? Well, my first guess is going to be start and finish line, that massive first straight we get of you could say the lovely DRS as well, which is quite powerful in the game. Any other overtaking opportunities?
Unfortunately, there's only one DRS straight, so as you mentioned, the pit straight is going to be the most popular overtaking opportunity. But I think you'll see a lot of overtaking in the second sector. You've got the hairpin of corner 6, and then you've got another hairpin, corner 10, which approaches into the third sector, and with that high speed, requiring a lot of front downforce to keep your car turning, I imagine the second sector will be the most dominant sector for overtakes. First sector, I mean, you've got corner 4 and 5, similar to Lesmo 1 and 2 around Monza, so it is very easy to have overtaking opportunities there. Though considering the high speed aspect of this track being around about 215 kilometers per hour in those corners, I think it'd be quite risky to try and do it in those high speed corners.
To be honest, I don't disagree with you there, but as we saw with PSGL and WOR Tier 1 drivers of esports level, they will literally go wheel to wheel for half a lap anywhere on the track to try and take positions left, right and centre, which I tell you what could be quite crazy at a circuit like this. You don't really expect overtaking opportunities. I would potentially say in like turns 7, 8 and 9, but you've just got the other guys from Tier 1 just sending it, just completely sending it, and somehow on top of all of that, what's the word I'm trying to look for, maybe just they somehow get through with no contact. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, that's what I have to say so far about the track. It's just an interesting track to sit back and wait for, really. And yeah, we should be getting going
hopefully
into the lobby soon.
Hopefully we have some intense fights, but as much as a safety car does certainly spice up the race, I do not hope to see anyone similar to how we saw in Tier 1 have massive incidents. So I want to try and see every driver in this lobby try and cross that line and finish this race. 29 laps around this great circuit. I want to see if we get a full lobby, 20 drivers cross that line at the very end.
I would say we possibly will. There might be some unfortunate incidents probably, I want to say lap 1, turn 1, because turn 1 can be quite an interesting corner. Because if you go wide at turn 1, you can actually get a really better entry than taking the sweet, sharp right hand of at turn 1. So we don't know what's going to happen. Of course, we would like all 20 cars on the grid with no issues at all. But yeah, it being Qatar, it can be quite a painful circuit as well on on tyres, because I did comms with PSGL on last Monday just gone, and 20 laps on mediums, there was a puncture. So
Interesting.
it is interesting, especially on medium compound tyres. You wouldn't really expect it, to be honest. 20 laps on mediums, and then all of a sudden you've got a left front puncture. But to be honest, it does eat fuel as well, and it also does eat tyre wear. So we could get some aggressive strategies at the beginning, and if some drivers on the grid forget that their fuel's being burnt way more than other tracks, then we could see someone in P1 lose fuel halfway through on the last lap of the race and then drop significantly down the grid, which would be unfortunate. But like we all know, Qatar eats a lot of fuel.
Unfortunately, I know exactly that pain of leading a race, and then because of low fuel, you lose it all. And I certainly do not wish that against any driver, because it is absolute heartbreak to have all of that work, all of that effort gone because of a simple fuel mistake.
That is very true. But yeah, like I said, we're just waiting for the lobby to get ready. I believe we're waiting on a couple more drivers. We've got 17 out of 20 really, so I believe we should be going shortly. Ah, there we are. Yes, it was. How was their name? Cobb? I think it's like saying name in the Alfa Romeo. Believe they have joined the lobby. So once we get the heads up from Harvey, we will be good to go. But no, you're in for a treat. I'll tell you now, Darkness. The racing here can be quite intense, and we have got confirmation that we are getting ready to go. So guys, we'll be back in a few moments. We'll play a few adverts quickly, and we'll be right back. So see you guys in a few. Rightio, lovely. The game is not capturing, but it should do soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. There we are. We are on the screen. Everything's working. Lovely jubbly. You guys can hear game audio. That's what we like to hear. Let's get things set up. And Darkness, what are you thinking about pole position lap time? As we have someone...
You've already had a
retirement. I believe that might have been from penalties last race, because I know Stewart reports were released, I believe, yesterday. So give me a couple of minutes to confirm. Whilst I find that, I will let Darkness take over from drivers leaving the pit lane, and just some general bits and bobs about the track and what tyres drivers are going on, really. So over to you, Darkness, whilst I try and find this useful information somewhere.
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned, it's a 16 track corner. So there's going to be a lot of different times and a lot of high-speed corners. And I imagine we will probably see a few drivers potentially spinning out if they're pushing a little too much on their tires for their lap. In fact, we've got, I believe it's an Alpine out for the first hot lap of the session. No, that's a Williams even. I got the colors of the teams wrong. That's my bad. But it'll be interesting to see what the drivers can do. All of them have opted to go for the softs. I have to say I'm quite surprised because I do know a few drivers do quite, not in this tier, but I do know a few drivers who like to start out on the mediums. First try and remember the circuit, understand the circuit before you jump onto the softs. But every driver has the allocation of between 2 to 4 soft sets, depending on which allocation they go for. If they go for a softer allocation or for a harder allocation. Of course, because then drivers will have more tires available for pit stops on the race, or sorry, more tire options for the race. For lap times, fortunately, I don't actually recall what kind of lap times drivers have been putting in previous tiers, but I suspect we will see them at least putting in around about 1 minute 20s or 1 minute 24s if my memory serves me well. But we've got the Williams of Hazara starting their first hot lap of the session. They'll be setting, of course, purple first sectors. The first driver to cross the line of the provisional time will be for everyone else to beat.
Yeah, I'm just having a look right now, and I can't... Oh, no, actually, no. I think I found something that might be helpful.
Whoa, very close. Hazard just going out for their hot lap. The Mercedes, I think, of VIR Dargra. I do apologize if I pronounce any names wrong. Just out of the way, just in time. But it seems like the Williams will have a perfectly clear third sector. There's a few drivers going around, but I think they're starting their hot laps.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any problem for them. And an important note, every driver, I've not seen anyone successfully pull this off, but whenever you finish a hot lap around Qatar, around this great track, Losail, as soon as you cross the line or around about when you get towards crossing the line, your ERS is depleted. So drivers have to absolutely push it, and then they are done. I think actually the Williams is now going to cross the line at 120.6. Okay, so my estimate of 124 wasn't too bad, just 4 seconds off the pace. That's the provisional time to beat. As the teammate for Williams goes in P2 with a 120.9, immediately beaten by Caterpillar in the Aston Martin, a 120.832. And then immediately Riley McKay with the Mercedes puts in the fastest lap time, a 120.5. Of course, this is just the start of qualifying, so times will be relatively slow to the end of qualifying as the track does start to ramp up.
Yes.
Alpine putting it in 3rd and 5th. There's so far 6 drivers in the 120s, which is actually a very good start.
That is very
so just 13.5 minutes left in the
switch
session.
screens to fix my capture card because it's a little bit glitchy on the stream I've seen. So hopefully it will sort itself out. There we are. Let's switch back and see if it's wanting to, you know, behave, if that's even a word. But yeah, like you were saying, I'm really impressed so far with these lap times that are coming in. And yeah, they are looking mighty, shall we say. Absolutely mighty on the track, you know. Obviously, pole position, a 120.539. That's impressive, you know. Obviously, tier 3, we are probably not expecting the... what's the word I'm trying to look for, maybe? You know, we were probably not expecting like the low, mid 120.5s, but we are getting what we deserve. The 1 minute 20s, mid, like low 5s. So it's crazy to see that drivers are finding pace out there, pushing really, really hard. And yeah, like you say, just finding time on track, and they can go again and just see how they get on, really, with everything else on the track, you know.
And if initial laps are 120.5, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to put in a 119. I think it's certainly something possible, even without team orders and getting a toe on that main straight. So it'll be interesting 100%. To see who's going to be the first driver to drop into that 119 zone.
I want to say, looking at the grid so far, It's a hard choice really, because the reason why it's a hard choice is because you've got a lot of fast drivers in this tier. Don't get me wrong, you've got a lot of fast-paced drivers, and you know it can get down to the wire. But having a look through, Carpenson, not a quick driver, but he's really really good, if you know what I mean. He's quite decent pace. He knows how to drive, cleanly, race fairly, and stuff like that. But maybe Riley McKay, because they're quite impressive with the way they, go on track, and they like just chilling. They're just basically just chilling on the track, and they'll be like, yeah, I just done a 120.5, and all of a sudden they'll do a 119.8 or 7. So it could just get out of hand, or just be absolutely just a mega lap time right there. So we'll just, like you say, wait and see what happens, as some drivers are now in the pit lane, just chilling, obviously get another fresh set of tyres to use. Antagonized in the Alpine on an outlap right now, as the Aston Martin Harvey is actually setting a banker lap at the moment. Or actually, no, never mind, he's on an outlap, it seems, as he's let the Alpine go by. So hopefully he'll be getting back into the pit lane, as he's already set a banker lap of a 120.869. So that's not a bad lap time right there for the Aston Martin. That's pretty impressive. So I think that's a good lap time to do. But like I said, we will see what happens, and wait until further news hits.
Oh, your Algato's gone.
Oh,
it's back.
No, it's just, I think it's just been a bit buggy today. I know there was a update, I believe Elgato released, and they wanted me to test it, and I said no, but it's put the update on, and yeah, absolutely lovely. So
brilliant.
We'll just see what happens. The vibe
hope
is
for the
go
best.
with the flow, hope for, like you said, hope for the best, and really see what happens on track. As Antagonized now has finished his outlap, and he's actually going to start a lap here at Qatar, his second lap now, I believe. So how did he get on to the rundown to turns number 1, 2, and 3? Let's have a look here. Not too bad, keeps it on the track, which you want to do. No invalidation, very close to track limits there. I don't know if you saw that, Dance, but he's on the limit. You want to be pretty much on track limits to find as much time as you possibly can on this track. The double right-hander now, before he gets down into sector 2, and so far it's a good lap. As I say that, I've jinxed it. He was 74 milliseconds down on his time, but he has invalidated, unfortunately, and that lap is now going to have to be done again, really. So not much the Alpine could have done there, which is, it's disappointing. This track is hard for track limits, as you did explain on the debrief, Darkness, but it can be quite harsh. But some drivers, they can do it. They can do it indeed. So we'll just see what happens and who the pole sitter will be, because obviously Riley sitting comfortably in pole position by a 10th of a bit to P2. But yeah, so far it's not looking too bad. As one board of Carpenson actually in that Williams in P9. And I've just seen a blip moment, Darkness. He's gone purple in sector 1.
Interesting.
Could this be our new pole sitter? Don't want to jinx anything, because when we normally say something whilst we're commentating a race...
Commentator's curse.
Yeah, exactly. The commentator's curse can come into hand and destroy a few laps, you could say, which you don't want to do, We don't want to be big meanies as the Haas there, quite close to the Williams, but I believe they got out of the way in time, The AlphaTauri also off track as well. As we all know, there's a lot of runoff here at this track, so drivers shouldn't really be struggling to move out of the way for any other cars on the track. But the Williams,
I think this could be a decent improvement.
It could be indeed across the line. What's it going to be? It's going to be a 120.6. Okay, now that is quite tight, because if we move to the gap-wise, he is 91 milliseconds off of P1. Just only 91 milliseconds. That's how tight the grid is. And if I'm correct, it goes all the way down, at the moment, from P1 down to P11.
Riley with a purple middle sector.
Ooh, let's go on board with Riley then, shall we? How are they doing? Oh, let's see. Is it going to be a massive improvement on the soft compound tyres? Battery is quite low. Obviously, Qatar uses a lot of battery. So let's see what he does. Up to line. What's it going to be, Darkness?
120.473. That's an incredible improvement. Whilst just only
mega.
a 10th, it's still good.
That is mega, that is. Obviously, if we go back on board with the leader gap, he is now a 10th ahead of P2. As I say that, hello, we have a challenger. Danelli, in the Alpine, going P1 at 120.229. That was very unexpected. I don't think you were expecting that.
No,
No
I was
way.
expecting the fight to be between Mercedes and Williams there, as AlphaTauri puts it in for P3 at 120.5. So now Williams demoted to 4th and 5th.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you do lap times and you just get demoted down
We're
the
gonna,
gridders, etc.
I think we might have 3
Ooh.
or 4 different constructors. Oh, never mind. We got 5 different constructors in the top 5. There's Ferrari and McLaren. McLaren Nino with a 120.399 in P2, and the Ferrari for Dobrell with a 120.495 for P4. This is starting to get spicy now.
It is starting to get spicy indeed. Just looking through the grid at the moment to find what drivers are actually on a lap. And I believe, is it? No, it's not, never mind. The AlphaTauri is not on a lap. They're just pushing quite hard to get back into the pit lane, as qualifying is almost done and dusted. So let's go back on board. Maybe the Red Bull or Sasha, as I say that, they have invalidated, so their time will not agree with them. Same with the Aston Martin, but they are on an outlap, I believe. We'll probably go back on board with Justin, who I believe he is. Never mind, he's not on a lap. Norman drives on a lap. I'm not having luck so far.
Alfa Romeo P17 has not put in a lap, and with only just a couple of minutes, and he spun as well in the third sector. He has got very little time left to jump into the pits if he needs a fresh set of tyres and put in that lap. Otherwise, a driver with a qualifying ban is going to out-qualify him because he can't put in a bad lap, and that's not something to be looking forward to at all.
That is not what you want to see. You know, he's now
He
got to go into that pit lane, and
he gets overtaken in the pit lane as well, in the pit lane entry.
Wow.
Very close.
Bit cheeky there. You never know. That could be not what you need. But antagonized, I believe they're on a fast up at the moment, and it's looking like a decent one. Up to the line, P13. Are they going to improve any more up and furthermore to the grid? It's going to be P11, a 120.779. So
exactly 1/100ths off of the Haas ahead of him as well.
That's what's crazy. It's only P15 at the moment in the 121s, and 16th and 17th. Obviously not set a lap time yet. 16th, I believe, must have a quali ban. That's why they've retired. That would only be the certain reason, or they're doing a last to first. You never know. And Cobb having a spin, like you said. Not set a lap time just yet. So hopefully they'll be able to go up the grid a little bit more. And we'll see what we can do. As Harvey in P13, his first lap was a 120.896. It's currently out in the Aston Martin on the track and looking for improvements left, right and centre. Fingers crossed. Right now on their soft tyres. And do you think he'll improve?
I think there is definitely a good possibility for him to improve. I mean, we've, as you can see, like the McLaren, the Ferrari, the AlphaTauri, Mercedes, Alpine, they're all improving. They're certainly there on the track, but I think potentially, if they really want to put their car right at the top of the standings, they just might need some team orders and get a very nice tow down that main straight at the end of the lap.
Yeah, I think that's where the majority of the focus is going to be today. It's just that tow that drivers can help out their teammates if they want a good position on the start of the race with only almost 2 minutes and something to go for qualifying. So not long until it's done and dusted. Harvey making his way up to turn number 16 now on those soft tyres. ERS is going to be switched on now, and the rear wing will be open as well as he makes it across the line, start and finish, on the way down to turn 1, 2 and 3. My English today is just not working. Don't know why.
It's fine. No one can speak English. Everyone struggles.
I think it's just one of those off days, you know. I'm getting one of those random off days. Always happens. So far, corrected 1 and 2, 3 now. Not too bad. He's got a bit of traffic ahead of him. AlphaTauri ahead of him. So hopefully run on board with the Aston Martin. Fingers crossed the AlphaTauri will, you know, slide out of the way as he gets off the track completely, which we love to see. So,
And then it's his teammate ahead.
Is that
Could we see team orders?
Could we see? That is true. I didn't actually think of that, but his teammate has gone slow, so that is basically a no. Never mind.
Immediately answered my question.
Yeah, that literally did right there. But if they did, would that affect them in the turbulent air? If you think about it that way.
I think first and second sector, you certainly will lose a lot of time behind driver. But into the third sector, the tail end of the third sector, you'll certainly improve by a country mile if you had a tow.
Saying that, though, if the Aston Martin, which is now approaching turn number 16, the final turn before he gets to the massive straight, if his teammate was there, that would have been a lovely help with a bit of a powerful tow, more performance, more top speed, you could say, up to the line now.
Incredible impact.
That's P5.
As Harvey puts it in for P5, the Aston Martin...
Purple.
He did have a Mercedes in front of him, but I think that Mercedes is just far ahead. He's not going to gain any advantage.
Right. Okay. So while we're impressed by that lap time of Harvey, his teammate right now of I'm going to go Rev because I can only pronounce the first part of the name. In the Aston Martin, pushing right now on their fast lap as there's someone that has retired, and that's going to be the Mercedes, who was on a flying lap as well, and they have binned it at turn number 6, just off the exit to sector 2. That is not what you want to see in qualifying. That Mercedes driver is starting in P10. If people start improving now, instead of going forwards, he is going to go backwards. So we'll see what happens. His teammate in the Aston Martin's ahead of him, but no slip or toe happening whatsoever. But that is disappointment for the Mercedes. I wonder, Darkness, how angry or frustrated do you think he feels right now in that cockpit?
I think very, very furious. I mean, he certainly had the pace. He and his teammate had the pace to get up there. My prediction would have been a Mercedes front row lockout, to be honest. So I'm quite disappointed to see him out. But if his qualifying pace is anything like his race pace, then I feel like we might see him going very quickly through the order at the start of the race, as we have a few drivers now crossing the line. The checkered flag is out. My eyes right now, whilst everyone may be on a lap improving, my eyes are on Cobb, because he is now the only driver to need to set a one bad lap time. He's now going through the third sector, clean as he can be.
I was going to say that, but the Aston Martin of Red is P3 right now. That's a mega lap time. But antagonized, P12, only a 44 millisecond improvement. I don't think he'll be very happy with that, but, you know what, Dennis?
Nino cannot improve. Ferrari improves to P2, and Cobb now to the line.
That's not bad.
Go for P12. It's not bad. But the Ferrari, with an incredible lap, puts in a 1:20.246. Just 2/10 almost. Sorry, not what 2/10, sorry. 2/100s, I think that might be, between him and pole.
I'll tell you what, that was an awesome qualifying session to watch. There it is. Look at the top
missed
4. Look at that top 4.
1/1000th gap between P2 and P3.
Now
incredible qualifying lap.
That's incredible, but also easy. You know? Obviously, we don't expect this in Tier 3. You probably expect that, in Tier 1 or Tier 2. But Tier 3, that's how close the gap is. And then if you even look down the grid, which is even more crazy, from P1 all the way down to P16, technically, they are all within a second. That's how tight the grid is for this race. They'll be underway in a couple seconds' time. That was awesome to watch.
If that's how exciting qualifying is, I'm excited to see what the race could be.
Oh,
because if those are the lap times on softs,
the race just gets better. I'll tell you that now. The race.
One has to hope so.
You do have to hope.
Now the question I'm wondering is, whilst the one stop is most certainly the fastest strategy available on this circuit, or on most circuits, sorry, which way round the driver's going to go for? We've seen or at least personally, I've seen a lot of drivers try and stick for the hard medium. Of course, you want to finish the race on the softer compound tire, the faster compound tire, and you'll have less fuel. So you'll be able to fly so much quicker, especially on a circuit like this. But while starting in the hards, maybe the finishing to the race, could we see, I think we could see a few drivers trying to go for the mediums at the start, try and get as best of a launch as they can before everyone starts to have an advantage on those hards. I feel like we might have a good gamble between the two, or at least I hope to see a good gamble between the two strategies.
To be honest, as we're going to be going at 29 past in the UK, so just before half past in the UK, yeah, I can agree with you on that. Strategy's come into play, and it's just about the gamble, isn't it? Because, in my opinion, I think you should start on the hard tyre, because the race is long. But then it's just, you can, you can't. Because if you start on the hards, like you said, you're not going to get a good launch. And to be honest, you're going to want a good launch at this track, because say for example P3 and P4 get a really good launch, you got P2 and P1 who are ahead of them, but they're going to get a nice toe. So does that conflict a slight strategy issue, if you know what I mean?
Potentially. Something I've just thought of, who's going to take the gamble and start on the softs? It's a risky strategy.
17 would. 100% tell you that now. P17 will be starting on the soft compound. No word of life, because there's no way they would, you know, want to start on the harder mediums. They want to make positions, they need to do it now. But it's also about fuel as well. You start on the softs, you're going to burn a lot more fuel than the medium and hard runners. So it's just about tyre conflict and, you know, what happens at Qatar. You know, it can be a tough circuit sort of overtaking and just absolutely crazy, you know. So, yeah. What is your predictions to turn one? Nice and calm or chaotic?
I would like to say nice and calm. I'd love to have the confidence to say nice and calm, but if I have to be entirely realistic, I think we might see at least one, maybe two cars possibly lose their front wings. I hope not, but definitely at least a couple cars going off of the track, being too eager to try and go for an unrealistic move into such a chaotic corner.
You know what? I could not disagree more, because that is bound to happen. But yeah, we'll just wait to see what happens. And Mr. Darkness, when we get going here at Qatar, I'm giving you the lovely honour of doing the 5 red lights and taking us on board for lap number 1. Because yeah, why not? And yeah, welcome to tier 3. So I would like to give you an opportunity to experience the carnage that's about to unfold. And so
no pressure on me, and we got 5 red lights. And it looks like mostly starting on the hard compound tyres, a very tentative start for everyone. But so far, I think the Alpine gets away quite well. The Ferrari sticking on the inside line, blocking up the McLaren just behind. As now Alpine maintains the lead. Ferrari still in P2, so Dorbel still going along, and Riley pushing on. The two Aston Martins getting... there's a bit of a fight actually going on at the back. As I'm talking about the front of the grid, the two Williams are getting a bit feisty together. Dargra and the Mercedes is also getting feisty with and agonized in P12. But so far, my prediction for drivers going off the track in the first corner was very much wrong, as we now go into the second sector. And so far, very clean racing between everyone. Riley Mackey into P2, Nino and Harvey fighting very tough. Bit of a contact between the two of them for P5. And all of this is helping Danielle in P1. 1.5 second gap so far, and we're only halfway into the first lap.
Yeah, that is very true.
In fact, there is a driver tumbling down the order, and that is the the Alfa Romeo for Cam. Unfortunately, involved in an incident at the very start there of the third sector. Unfortunately, now down to 17th place with 9 seconds to catch. But if we look quickly at the tyre compounds,
yes.
If you have a look at the tyre compounds, you're going to see something very interesting. Only 2 drivers have opted for the mediums, as Justin managed to take 12th place in the drag race down the straight. In fact, the Haas has got a very low downforce setup, because he is flying by. In fact, the Red Bull Sasha is flying by. The mediums is working beautifully, but the setup, everyone is just a sitting duck for them.
I was going to say, you on board with Sasha, like, getting past the Haas, and then the Haas just going up by inside into turn 2 and getting the move done. And the Haas back into P12 now. So, yeah, that is, you know, pretty impressive. You know, lap 1, turn 1, it wasn't that chaotic. That's a good thing. I'll tell you that. That is a good thing. I was expecting a bit more chaos, but that's what we love to hear and see. But look at Riley right now on that Mercedes. He's now managed to push his way back within a second to Danelli up ahead. So do you think that the Alpine may have had a slight moment which has allowed the Mercedes back into DRS range? Potentially.
Potentially, but if you look at how much they've pushed, Riley certainly lost a lot of ERS off of that straight and off of the start of the race. So I think it's going to be realistic. The realistic answer, sorry, God, even I'm struggling for words, is that Riley's just absolutely pushing as much as they can at the start of this race and close that gap down. Because as soon as DRS enables at the end of this lap, DRS, the drag reduction system where the rear wing opens and encourages overtaking, cutting down the gap to the driver ahead of you, or as Riley puts in the fastest lap, trying to achieve that fast lap. As soon as that's enabled, I think Riley's just trying to stick in that window and then try and cut that gap down.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say right now and point out the Mercedes of VIR in P8 right now is making up moves left, right, and centre as he got past the Williams there. And like you say, both Williams actually really fighting hard on track today. Teammates coming close together is not what you want to see as the Haas looking left, right in the background there, trying to find a way past the Williams of Carpenson. But right now, on board with that Mercedes, flying on those medium tyres, but needs to make the ground, like, now. He needs to start making the moves, like, literally now. Because if he doesn't, then obviously his strategy is going to flop, and he'll be going backwards instead of forwards, as he is right now, going forwards. But if he carries on, not getting through this traffic, it's an issue for his long-term race. So he'll be hoping for a safety car back then, if it does happen. But the Haas, look at the Haas adjusting. A 10th behind, he's all over the rear wing. All over the rear wing of that Williams. So with DRS enabled, he may get past on this lap. And what's interesting is P3 actually going a little bit wide and gone off track there at the exit of turn 16, is actually struggling to keep the top two and doesn't actually have the DRS. So this could get quite interesting as the Mercedes pulls out to wheel with the AlphaTauri on the hard tyres and up into P7. The Mercedes goes, and that was a pretty easy move. No really hard defence done by the driver behind, but no, Mercedes flying at the moment, of course, on the medium compound tyre. The best tyre to be on at the moment to make overtaking opportunities.
Indeed, and I have to say I'm quite surprised to see that the mediums aren't working as well as I would have anticipated for the Mercedes in the middle of the pack. He has climbed a lot of positions, but not as many as anticipating. As someone gets a time penalty, Sasha is the first person to fall victim to track limits. One of the two drivers going for the medium compound tyres, and as I say that, the second driver for Mercedes, Darragh, there we go, has a snap of oversteer. He was certainly pushing the limits. He's now out of a second as he comes into that third sector, and hopefully he can try and close that gap down. He's certainly got a massive advantage. At least for the next 7 laps, he's going to have an advantage over the drivers around him before those mediums are going to start to drop off and those hards are going to come into play, and they're going to be a major component in this race.
That is very true, but I just saw in the background there when I was riding aboard a Rev in the Aston Martin P6, the Mercedes you were on about went a little bit wide there at the exit of turn 15, so could that have been a penalty maybe? As, hello, Harvey's gone for the move for P3, and that Ferrari of Bell is going backwards now. So if they got some form of damage, or are they just really struggling for race pace as the McLaren now trying to look for an opportunity and make it by the Ferrari, as that Ferrari, like I said, just struggling, and that's not what you want to see. Not what you want to see.
as you mentioned at the start of the session, it is a fuel consumer track. This track, if you're not careful, you will run out of fuel very quickly. So perhaps the Ferraris opted to try and go for lower fuel at the start of the race, go easy on the hard compound tires, and slowly bring them in as the fuel comes in as well. So he could just be conserving and using the DRS to keep in with everyone ahead. It's a risky strategy, but that is something that's plausible, because it doesn't appear as though, or at least from the spectator's perspective, there's no damage to his car. Though this is EA we're talking about. We could very easily see a clean car and the car could be dismantled into nuts and bolts.
Yeah, that is very true. But what's also quite interesting to know is, the Red Bull there, Sasha going on a bit deep and a bit wide there, not ideal. What is interesting to know, that I will say now, is Cobb was an all-time favourite that we were rooting for. Gone on P14 now as he makes it back into P13, so they've gone backwards as well. So some drivers
Sasha's
actually
tumbling down the order.
What's actually happened to Sasha? Well, they must have damage or they're just struggling. But like you said, they are tumbling, aren't they? Tumbling indeed.
They certainly are. Unfortunately, Sasha qualifying in 16th place was once in 13th place, then loses 2 positions on that pit straight because of DRS. And unfortunately, Cobb has a 1.5 second gap ahead of them, which means they might be at risk for another double overtake, and he will be the victim. And whilst all of this is going on, Danielle is still flying comfortably in P1, just under a second gap to the rest of the grid. As GT in P8, unfortunately, the second driver to fall victim to track limits. Though equally, it can just be the track limits around this circuit is quite awful as he goes round the outside of the Mercedes and now finds himself up into 7th place. That was a very bold move into that 3rd sector, as that Mercedes also receives a 3-second time penalty. But as I was saying, this track...
He's into the pit lane as well, so he's not liking those tyres, so he's in early. Very early. And that is someone out of the session. And that's
dark right, he's done. He's had enough.
Wow. So that is interesting, but whilst that's all going on, we've missed the top 2 action. Harvey absolutely flying on those hard tyres, not really using much battery to deploy, and they're in P2. And I've just realised they are flying, so they're running like a higher wings than everything else, or lower wings. I don't know, but they are pretty rapid at the moment. Maybe they could be an all-time favourite to be the one to watch out for, as he's trying to charge his way through the pack and take P1 from the Alpine.
All positions gained an incredible start for him as we now approach Sasha again with another 3-second time penalty. That's 9 seconds total, and this certainly is not going well for the medium runner in P14. But as I was saying with Harvey, he's managed to climb 4 positions off the start of qualifying. And it's only been 7 laps, but it's going to be 8 laps in just a moment. So nearly a quarter into the race, he's climbed 4 positions. And that's on the hards. So imagine him on the mediums. I think he's going to be flying very fast on those mediums.
I couldn't disagree anymore, but now running on board with some drivers, as we've got actually the McLaren switching left and right. Nino in that McLaren, trying to look for a move. The Mercedes defending to the inside. Is there going to be a move up the inside by the Ferrari? Yes, it is. But the McLaren may get involved. And there's contact. And the Ferrari has gone into the wall with, obviously, we saw there, contact the Mercedes. And that is the Ferrari tumbling down the order. And that is not what you want to see. It looked like, from my point of view, it looked like the Mercedes got a bit of a snap, or the Alpha got a bit of a snap, because they both looked like they did, and that just ended in contact and blood, sweat and tears. But that is not what the Ferrari driver needed. Now down at P14, as there's more drama going on, and that is Sasha. What is going on with Sasha? All of a sudden,
I don't think those mediums are working at all.
I don't think it is. That's what's interesting. We had an all-time favourite for these medium tyres to be working, but as we all know, tyre strategy on this track is a killer. It's such a struggle. And right now, what's interesting is that Antagonize is on so much humongous pressure from Justin behind in that Haskar. is Justin going to want to make the pounce shortly? It's going to happen. And what I've just realised is that the two Williams drivers have been split up, as Haz is up into P6, the Williams in P8, his teammate. So we're going to see what happens, as Antagonize is actually gaining on the car up ahead. They're going to look to the inside for turn 1, and they've got a little bit more top speed and a little bit more straight line than that Williams. The Williams will try and hold it, though, around the outside, and they're still going to go wheel to wheel. It's got a lovely helicam shot of what's going on, and that is yellow flag. Someone is in the pit lane and retired, but that Alpine's still going at it with the Williams, and the Alpine is through up into P8, and the Williams down to P9 as Justin now will try to fight his way through. So like you said, Darkness, those medium tyres are definitely not working.
No, and I think if that's the case, it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers do with low fuel then, or lower fuel, for the second stint in this race. Still got very close fighting. Justin's closing that gap down, 3/10 behind. Car person as well, 3/10 behind. A lovely DRS chain. You can see the gap starting to form. You got P1 comfortably in the lead, 1.5 seconds. Then you got Nino closing that gap down in a DRS battle, three-way fight for P2. Rev Caterpillar, teammate to Harvey in P5, sitting in his own race, with the Williams under pressure from 4 drivers behind, all in DRS train, fighting for that 6th place. And then we have the rest of the grid. Just outside of the points is the McLaren. We're going to see the McLaren and the Aston Martin going too wide down the main straight. I think just a bit more downforce and the DRS advantage. No ERS needed. And Nino gets through into P2. So a very clean, very easy move from McLaren.
That is very true. Now we've got Justin fighting away with the Williams as well. Once again, the Williams under P10 at the moment. And the Williams almost got a nice switch back there on the Haas, but the move didn't really succeed. And now what's going to happen is now that Justin's through, we see he's quite a quick driver on whatever setup he's running. So he could probably blitz by now and try and get past some more cars and make those hard tyres work. He has a little bit of a moment there, a little bit of a rear end loss, you could say. That Williams putting so much pressure on the Haas at this moment of time. But like you said, a little train forming. So we're going to wait and see if that train will potentially and eventually break up a bit. But as I'm looking at it, it looks like a no. But Harvey is only 3/10 behind that McLaren at the moment. So maybe those two as well trying to work together to bring that gap down on the lead up ahead, which it looks like they are.
Sasha, again, definitely a race to forget for them, as they find themselves, I think it's 18 seconds, even worse, down to 14th place, but still commendable, as they haven't quite retired yet, so I think they have the confidence to go for it. And here comes Harvey with a DRS advantage down the main straight, and a very easy move into the braking zone. Takes P2 back from Nino, and this fight's going to continue to go on for at least this next 4 to 5 laps. Of course, the hard compound tyres predicted to drop off a cliff between laps 15 and 20, so drivers will be opting to pit around about that time for their second stint, which will, if they pit lap 15 off of the hards, that's going to be a long stint on the mediums, but it is certainly possible. As you mentioned, I think at the very start, 20 laps on the mediums, and they started having punctures left, right and centre, so 15 laps or 14 laps should be relatively doable without too much pace lost.
I was going to say, we've got quite an intense battle happening down in P, surprisingly 8 and 9, as there's another retirement in the session. That's now going to be, is that Sasha? I think it's
just
Sasha,
as I say, commendable to keep going. Sasha retires.
It's sad. It's a sad moment. It happens. But what's quite interesting is that Haas, like you said, is so quick in a straight line. He is poking his nose at the Alpine up ahead, and he's just trying to see if he can make a move into some risky corners, but doesn't want to bin it all. But like I said, this train is just getting ever so closer. So shortly, we're going to see a move by, I would say, the Haas, and potentially the driver of the Williams, putting pressure on the Alfa Tauri ahead as the Williams looks and switches, and the Alpine is actually looking to make it a double overtake. A nice defense by the Alpine. The Alpine kind of got blocked there. He couldn't go anywhere. So the Alpine, after all that, made a position, then lost it. But then it's going to be almost wheel to wheels. The Alpine will try and get a switch back with the ERS battery. But so far, nothing is happening at this moment of time. And things did happen, but no switches happened. Because
It's
they all
getting
got
very
their,
feisty for them.
it is, and they all had their upgraded positions, and it's like a downgrade. When you upgrade a game, you then get downgraded when you want to re-download the update or downgrade the game. That's what's literally happened. They've gone, oh,
Where are
I've got
you
an
going
upgrade,
with this?
and then I've got a downgrade. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to make it interesting, you know. Yeah, ramble.
Fair
That's
enough.
the word. So, what's
Well, whilst
actually
you do
interesting,
that,
though, the Williams are trying
we've
to
got
make
the Alpine.
DRS.
Have you seen the lead gap? It's 2 seconds, and I think Harvey is still just... I mean, so both of them are at half battery. Nino has managed to conserve so much. I think they're just waiting for the second stint, or potentially the pit window to open for them to absolutely push like mad. But this train at the front, I feel like Riley may be at the back of this fight, but I think Riley's certainly still in a very good position, a very good fighting position for winning this race, considering the lap time they put in for qualifying.
I could say right now, I'm not going to disagree with you, because that is quite a bold, I would say, strategy advantage that he could be thinking right now. Just chill on the tyres and the fuel. Of course, we know fuel very, very important. So maybe the Alpine's making the wrong decision instead of pushing really, really hard, unless he's really overfueled that car. So
He's managed to overfuel that car and pull out a 1-2 second gap. That's very impressive.
I'm going to say as well, there's more carnage happening at the back, and it's still with P8. It was almost 3 wide at turn number, I believe that's going to be, I'm trying to think now, turns 8 and 9. That was quite a scary, bold, brave movement. But Justin, he wants to get by this Alpine. Now heading to turn number 12, 13, then 14. Like you say, a double right-hander now. And so far, nothing is happening. But Justin goes off the track there and loses a little bit of time. He's stuck on the curb. And that could have been
Harvey,
a track
first to
limit warning.
pit. Sorry to jump in there, but Harvey's now the first to pull the trigger and get off of those hard compound tyres, stopping just in time for the pit limiter line. That's going to be 15 laps as Justin gets a pit 3-second time penalty, and the teammate for Nino, NRX, LaGriff, into the pits as well. But the mediums for 15 laps is going to certainly be quite a stint to have to do, but it is certainly possible.
It is possible. Obviously, towards the end of the race, he'll have the disadvantage of he's got to push now. He's got to go, 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 go. But yeah, the only disadvantage is the tyre wear. It's quite high. 15 laps. It's a bit, I wouldn't say risky. It's just, what's the word like? It's a risky strategy move because...
It's a gamble.
It's a gamble because it will work, but then your tyres will be dead. Then you've got to realise, my tyres will be dead, am I actually going to make it?
Justin getting very close into that second sector. Corner 7, almost pushing that Alpine ahead. But he is sticking
trying.
very close by. He's pushing the limits for certain. Certainly prioritizing his exit speed over his entry speed. Try and get this move done, or at least close that gap down as quick as he can. But the question now, as we have the
race leader and P2
race
into pit
leader
lane.
and P2 now pitting. I was about to say, when are the competitors going to pit? We see also Justin opting to pit. We've got GTO pitting as well, so few more drivers pitting. But then now it's down to Riley and Rev. When are they going to pit as their competitors hop on to a fresh set of mediums, much faster mediums as well?
Sorry to butt in there, but this pit lane is actually quite lengthy, and Harvey has made his way round turn number 16. So actually, which is going to be quite surprising for Harvey, he will actually take the lead of this race. Because as the Alpine comes to the exit, I say that he doesn't, but the Alpine will be on colder tyres. And after all that magic performance by the Aston Martin, he's managed to jump the McLaren. So that is pretty bold and brave. But what's also bold and brave by the Aston Martin, as we can see now, he's within a second of the car ahead, which was the net race leader. So he's now magicked up 2 seconds, you could say. So I'll tell you what, I'm pretty impressed by that. That was a smart move by Harvey, I would say. Very smart move.
But now it's all about their outlap. The Alpine and the Aston Martin, who's already done their outlap, they have got to push like mad. But I say like mad. I keep contradicting myself. But Riley has a very small window to try and pit now. If they don't pit in the next few laps, as they now pit, they're going to lose a lot of time. Currently 19-second gap to Danielle behind, net P1 with pit stops. But could they have put in a brilliant time as the Williams opt to double stack as well? They only got a 2-second gap between the two of them. Car person, I think both Williamses might have received a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which is not what you want to see at all. Because unfortunately, the 5-second time penalty, unless they pit again, that's going to be a huge loss to their race.
And here goes
at the
Harvey
end of the,
for the
end of the circuit.
net race leader, and he takes P1 off of Dan. But, of course, Cobb's still out on those tyres, probably waiting for a safety car. I said net race leader because, obviously, the Alfa Romeo has not boxed yet. Just going to confirm that right now. Yeah, they have not boxed. So just double-checking to make sure I'm not having a
five-way battles jump in there. But if you jump to the back of the grid, 5-way battle between Justin, GTO, Cam, Hazra, all of them very close together to the point where they were almost 3 wide trying to go into the second sector, or the first sector, sorry.
Things are getting serious now for these guys at the back of the grid. Normally, it's quite... There's a lot more action at the front of the grid, but tonight, it's at the back of the grid as Cam loses a position to antagonize there in the Alpine. Not ideal, but antagonize one of those drivers that has been flying today on this track, I will say. But I'd say it's been a bit more like Justin. Just look how close he's getting to the rear wing of that Alfa Romeo. It's absolutely insane how close that AlphaTauri is under a lot of pressure right now. As Cobb is into that pit lane, is he going to overcut anyone? That'll be an interesting factor.
It will be indeed. I mean, he's managed to stop in time. He's got no penalties. So he'll be quite happy with that. And in fact, I was wrong about the 5 seconds. Nino with the fastest lap, and Riley getting up into P4, of course, with Cobb in the pits. But it was Car Person and Agonized in P9 right now with the 5-second time penalty. Car Person with another... Oh, he's retired. Okay, fair enough. But it was Agonized with the 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But we once had a gap of 4 seconds, or 3 seconds, sorry, between P1 and P2. But now we have half a second between P1 and P3. So a very close battle between everyone as Riley receives a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Very unfortunate to see as Car Person is still just coming out of the yellow flag. Please, could you go away? As you're getting a little frustrating. I love the yellow flags. Always a dream to see. But so far, the only yellow flags we've had are people retiring from the race. Fortunately, we've had no touch wood. I'm not giving anyone the commentator's curse, but we've had so far no collisions between drivers, and I have to say that is certainly commendable for those who are still left on the grid. So it'll be interesting to see now what happens for P1.
Next lap is going to happen.
If it's going to happen to anyone, it's going to be P1, P2, P3. That's
it could be, you know, because now what's going to happen is Dan is quite close to the rear wing of the Aston Martin, and he's going to switch. But I don't know what Nino, I don't think they've got the straight line speed to attack. But there goes P2 into P1. They switch on lap number 18. Could that have been the move for this race? There's no telling at this moment of time, because obviously
Hazra with the purple third sector, managing to push past Rev Caterpillar now up to P5.
Yeah,
Hazra, I think Hazra is... So they qualified P9, but they are certainly in the fight for a top 5 finish, considering the penalties ahead of them as well. If they close that gap down in the next 11 laps, they only need to close it down by, what is that, 2.3 laps? 2.3 seconds, if my math is correct. So they haven't got too much work ahead of them. They just need to make sure they keep the drivers behind. They'll have a comfortable top 4 finish, hopefully.
Yeah, and I was riding on board of P8 and P9. They were a fantastic battle around about Sector 2. And they were actually wheel to wheel for the majority of it. And what's interesting to know is look at Harvey. He's about 5/10 behind. He's struggling for pace. Look at that McLaren. So, we're going to find out what's going to happen here. I don't think any switches are going to be made just yet. But whilst they're chilling, let's go back towards the craziness, shall we say. as that Aston Martin of Rev is gaining and gaining and gaining, but isn't making a move just yet on this lap. The Alpine as well defending quite hard from the AlphaTauri behind. They're having a stellar race so far. But obviously some drivers, unfortunately, like Cam, getting 3-second time penalties for not keeping on the track, which, of course, it isn't really ideal, is it? Because you want to really
No,
keep
not
on
at
the
all.
track. Because you don't want a penalty. Because
And
you get a penalty, it ruins your race.
And the worst part of it as well is, argument's sake, there's a safety car. No one can serve a 3-second time penalty in the pits, unfortunately. It's only 5 and 10-second penalties you can serve, and the 3 seconds are just slapped onto your race time at the end of the session. And that's very upsetting. I know the frustrations that can happen when you get that 3 seconds, because it means you've got to work that extra bit harder and make sure you secure yourself that gap behind.
That is very true, but what's interesting to capture my eye is look at that McLaren MP3 right now, and he's right on the rear wing of Harvey. So I think he's trying to make Harvey push a little bit hard. And if Harvey pushes a bit too much, he could drain his battery, or the McLaren could switch here. But if you just look at that straight line, it looks like the McLaren has him. But Harvey looking to go up the inside into turn 1. No, he backs out of it.
Getting very feisty between them, and this is helping Riley a lot. Now the gap down to 2 seconds, and Hazard not able to close that gap down. The gap was once just 2 laps ago at 5.2 seconds gap, but it's now 5.7. So Riley, I think, is just absolutely pushing, and the fight ahead is certainly helping them get back into this session.
It is indeed, but look at the McLaren there once again. He just gets a better exit than Harvey there. It's really weird to see how much better performance that McLaren has on those medium tyres. Of course, they've got the advantage over the Aston Martin of about, 1 lap fresher tyres? So, at the moment, it is working into their favour. At the moment, though.
All of my eyes are on the front of the grid, whilst there may be a half-second gap between Justin and Caterpillar and Hazara fighting for P5. My eyes are focusing on P1, 2, and 3, and very soon Riley is going to be in that fight as well. Now 1.1 seconds back. I think Riley is trying to push it with only half a battery left. They are 1.2 seconds back, and that 3-second time penalty, not a care in the world for that. So we have a yellow flag at the back of the grid. I think that's the Alpine Cobb. Fortunately, still able to keep driving, and no safety car, no virtual safety car still. We cross the line to start lap 21 of 29. 8 laps left to go.
It is getting scary now. It's getting down to that wire. Just ever so slightly. Hazard P5 ahead of the Aston Martin. He doesn't really need to worry about letting the Aston Martin by, because Aston Martin has a harsh penalty of a wonderful 3 seconds. So, like we say, that car behind is not really a threat to the driver ahead in that win-win situation.
I think Riley might have made a mistake. 1.5 seconds now, and 5.3 second gap behind. They're losing time, or at least in this past lap, they've lost around about 4/10 to the drivers, or the fight ahead of them. Is not something you want to see. These mediums can only last so long, and with them now about to cross the line, come around the final corner, and cross the line, these tyres are going to be around about 7 laps old, and that's going to be risking how much further you can push them before you really need to start conserving these tyres. Around 15 to 20, you'll have the mediums drop off a cliff and enter the puncture territory, and that is not what you need to do. You need to conserve them so that in those dying moments you have a good car with great grip.
Yeah, and then you could just pull away and run away. But what is quite interesting is that Aston Martin, like we say, it gets really, really close to the rear wing of Dan, but then it doesn't make a move, which is obviously quite interesting. But I think I've understood why.
Go on.
Aston Martin at turn 1 does lift. I can hear that throttle lifting. So they may be saving fuel, which is
saving fuel, but also I've only just realized this, but We have seen this in the past. We've seen this with Tier 1 drivers, PGSL, WOR, and I think many other competitors in their own league races. In most circuits, around most circuits, you want to stay in P2 for as long as you can. You hold out in P2 with all of that dirty air and you maintain your tire temps. You can get P1 right across the line because you will have that DRS advantage, and the driver ahead of you has no chance to defend, and just a drag race. And with a drag race, Riley is into this fight now with a 6.2 second gap behind and a 0.9 second gap ahead. Finally having DRS, but absolutely no battery, completely empty. So whilst they might be in this fight, they have got to stay within a second and try and charge that battery back up if they want to have any contention for a podium finish.
That is very true, and it's getting exciting down to the wire. The gap is 2/10 off. And like you said, Riley now involved, but he's got that time penalty, which isn't helpful. So the only issue with Riley, if he gets by, he's then got to push like hell to try and break the gap. So Riley may be in a sticky situation at the moment.
You can only hope for a driver error ahead. Harvey, he is really struggling in that middle sector to keep that gap down, as Nino is staying very close behind. Nino's got nearly a full battery, whilst Harvey and Danielle ahead of him, they're both just about half batteries, half full. So this is getting very interesting, but I think Nino, he doesn't want to wait in P2. He's going to wait in P3. He's going to pounce from P3 to potentially top of the standings onto the top step of that podium at the end of the race. So we go down that final, or that main straight once again. DRS for all of them. And it's just a waiting game for them all. 10-lap tires for Harvey, 9 laps for Nino and Danielle, 8 laps for Riley.
And what just really helps out is the fact that you go on board with these drivers, and now, because no one's making any overtaking opportunities, it helps Riley out, because Riley's now involved in this battle. But now Riley needs to hope for a driver error up ahead.
Cam with another 3-second time penalty. Track limits are not doing anyone any good in the second half, the back half of the grid. It certainly is. I mean, there are certainly a lot of issues with the track as well. Some of these track limits, I will have to say, could be just a matter of the track was not created very well. Some people have been complaining in the past that when you're driving within limits and your one wheel or 2 wheels just goes out of bounds, you will still get a warning. So hopefully, if that hasn't been fixed, and the drivers don't fall victim too much to that, so that certainly will destroy their hopes of finishing in a point-scoring position.
That is very true, and of course that can be quite harsh, when a driver gets penalised for something they haven't done, so that obviously if they feel like they've been treated unfairly, they'll just go ahead and, report it, and the stewards can deal with it. But look at that McLaren. He's getting closer and closer and closer, and I thought he was actually going to go for a move there. As look at Harvey. He is really close to that rear wing of that car. He is thinking about it, isn't he? 100% thinking about it.
Certainly is. I thought they were about to collide into turn 1 there. I was getting very close. And talking about very close, we got Justin still at the back of the grid. That Haas, he is not leaving the fight. He's got 2/10 now to Rev Caterpillar ahead of him. And if we look at the penalties real quick, they're both at the same time penalty, 3 seconds for track limit. So it's a matter of who finishes ahead on the track.
You know what? That is very true. So, of course, we wait to see what it can await us. On to lap 26, we almost go. And it's all about fuel. It's all about fuel now. It's all about that fuel.
Riley's managed to charge some of their battery back up. Nino's still comfortably at 75%. And Daniel and Harvey, I think Harvey's trying to push and use it as much as he can coming around some of the corners and coming down towards the main straight now. Potentially, I think, I mean, at least if I was in his shoes, I certainly would try and push to close that gap down as quick as possible. Defend as much as you can and get the 2 drivers behind you, Riley and Nino, to start fighting. Because as soon as they start fighting, I can focus on P1. And unfortunately, Harvey looking for a move down the inside isn't quite close enough or at least brave enough to try and go for a dive, which is fair enough. I mean, safe game is better than a risky game, especially around such a high speed, a high risk track such as this one.
I could not disagree anymore. Right now, not much going on except for Riley having that penalty of 3 seconds in P4 at the moment, just waiting for the carnage to unfold. You never know. You could get to the final turn on the second to last lap, and there could be a massive congestion traffic. Someone could spin, and then Riley could automatically be promoted to P number 3 if something chaotic happened with the leaders. As Cobb, again, with a time penalty of 3 seconds for going on and off the track. Some drivers, only round 2 at WOR, tier 3, aren't having the greatest time tonight, are they?
Not at all. It seems to be quite equally distributed towards the mid-pack and back of the pack, whilst the top 5, excluding the likes of Riley, have managed to keep themselves clean. I say that.
I
P10,
have spotted something.
we got Griff, who is still quite comfortably happy there. And in fact, Nino is trying to close that gap down. Harvey going down the inside, and Nino as well down the inside. They're trying to fight too wide into that first corner. Nino and Danielle fighting for P2, but Danielle with the following inside line for second corner, now into the third corner, keeps P2. But Harvey now into the lead of the race has finally decided to get ahead and get into that clean air. So now Nino has to choose when he needs to make this move. When is he going to pounce and try and steal out P2 that he rightfully deserves? He has enough battery in the bank to try and make that move. Harvey down to 30%, Danielle to 60, and Nino at 80. So a lot of potential still. Riley has charged so much so they're up to 40% nearly.
There is a bit of an issue
at the end of this race.
There is an issue. Thought antagonized in P8 at the moment. There is a massive factor of an issue right there for the Alpine. He is yellow on fuel. The Alpine,
oh my god, he is
yellow. So that must mean he is below. Does that mean he's below the fuel mark required? Something like that?
I will assume yes. I have no clue. I've never seen it go yellow before.
Same here, so I'm not too sure. If that's what it means, fingers crossed. But to lap 28, the penultimate lap of the race, Alpine now has switched on that battery, and here he goes up against Harvey and takes that lead. And Harvey won't really fight this one, but the McLaren trying to get involved now. Riley not really getting involved as he really doesn't really want to, and is hoping for another driver error. The Aston Martin, the rev there, all over the back of P5 at the moment, but now we set our eyes, Darkness. We set our eyes on the top 4 at this moment of time.
Indeed we do. It's certainly getting very feisty between them all. All of them with plenty of a battery left, so they got plenty of opportunities to attack, but only a lap and a half to go into the second sector now. We got corners 7, 8, and 9. Very quick corners, so you can overtake around them, but unfortunately none of them are close enough to make a move. Now we got the hairpin of 10, now onto 11. Nino almost missing their braking zone, or at least on my screen it looks like they might have locked up. Almost rear-ending Harvey, which would not have been good for either party, but certainly would have been a huge help for Riley in putting Hazard as well into the podium positions. But a lap and a half to go. Nino is closing that gap very quickly into the third sector now. And there goes Harvey off of the track. And now with a 3-second time penalty, Nino's through and Riley's through as a P3.
So that has really helped out Riley's race, but not Harvey's race. And Nino now could be a challenge for pole position, but hasn't got the DRS. Riley now gaining on that McLaren, trying to defend from the car behind. He might go down the inside. No, he doesn't. He decides not to. He decides to take the safer road and safer option. Rev now trying to get past that Williams for P number 5. Down to turn 1 we go. Around the outside, the Aston Martin will go. The Williams will defend that inside line, and he's done that to perfection. And the Williams defends P5 for now. But we set our eyes to P1 and P2. About an 8/10 gap at the moment. If that McLaren can get close enough in these last couple of turns and corners, you never know. You could get a good exit, and someone has stopped on the track or has had a little spin. I thought it was fuel. It isn't. Never mind. Let's have a look at fuel quality before the top 3. And what's surprising, Riley is flashing red on fuel. I repeat, Riley is flashing red on that fuel indicator. And I think Riley
agonized as well.
Might have enough fuel to defend.
Drivers.
We do not know. But the top two now, 7/10 gap. There is still DRS to be played here at the exit of turn 16. That McLaren has just got to get close enough. And that Alpine is somewhat struggling. I think the Alpine has actually run out of fuel. Because that Alpine is slowing down on those corners, Darkness. So it could be a dragline finish to the end of this race. DRS enabled for that McLaren. Is the Alpine going to get taken here? I think the Alpine will just take it. He does.
Oh. 1/10 of a gap, less than 1/10 between P1 and 2. Riley, with that 3-second time penalty, still securing a podium finish. So huge congratulations to them. Harvey, unfortunately, went from P1 down to P4, and that 3-second time penalty certainly did not help his chances to get a podium. Azra with a brilliant start to the race, up 4 places into this race, and now into 5th place to finish it out. Harvey's teammate Rev Caterpillar down 1 position in 6th place. Justin up 7 places, but more impressively, teammate to Nino in P2, we've got LeGriff, who comes across the line in P8, 9 places gained, and GTO and Cobb to finish out the top 10. Or in fact, sorry, not Cobb, I think it's Angonized in P10, but because they left the session just immediately after leaving, crossing the line, it will DNF them, because this game is built beautifully.
What have we just witnessed? I think Dan in that Alpine had to do a massive lift to save fuel. I think that's what it was. I think Dan had to do a massive lift of fuel, and then he just sent it at the end of turn 16. But if he ran out of fuel there, that McLaren would have got P1. He was ever so close. But that was an awesome end to round 2 of Qatar. If we're going to get racing action like that, that is crazy. But unfortunately, Harvey will be really gutted, you could say, with that massive moment he had at before turn 16, you know. It's just not ideal for the Aston Martin driver, but that's only round 2. We've got a few more rounds to go yet until we can crown our champion. So, yeah, but Harvey, he won't be happy with that time penalty either.
No, he certainly won't. I mean,
what he wanted.
He, out of corner 15, he certainly had the pace to try and keep the position, but unfortunately, just a quick snap of oversteer, I think it was, found himself just going a little bit wide, and that really opened the door for Riley to jump in and say, "Hey, I want this position." I mean, they managed to stick in and close that gap down. They went from about 3 seconds back in about 10 laps. They cut that down to half a second. They were putting themselves right in the fight, and that is a huge victory for Riley.
You know what? That is indeed, and I cannot wait for the next round of round 3, which I'm not actually sure what it is. So what I'm gonna do, as I have switched, and you'll tell me Saudi. There we go.
Saudi Arabia round 3.
How it can get better? It can get better. Qatar, racing action on the track, and now Saudi Arabia. Could this get any more crazy, Darnus? Like, could it actually get any more crazy? A street circuit, 2 massive straights of lovely DRS.
3 straights with DRS
3
now.
straights, sorry, yeah. 3 straights. I keep forgetting that. I've never used the 3 straights of DRS at Saudi Arabia, so that's absolutely crazy. But we're going to see a lot of wheel-to-wheel action next week, to be honest. But guys, that is going to be everything done and dusted for today's stream. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to hit that like button and do subscribe to keep up to date with all the streams that go live for PC1, PC2, PC3, every single PC tier, every console tier, every Xbox tier, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button to keep up to date with all the social media that happens on this channel, because WOR, World Online Racing, if you want to see racing action like that, then there you are. All information about Discord, Twitter, socials is down below in the description, so feel free to check that out. But guys, you've been awesome. I'm going to say my byes, and ta-ta, and Darkness, anything you'd like to say at all?
I would love to come back and commentate Tier 3 again, because that was certainly an exciting and spicy race right towards the end. And if that's the fighting on a track that really burns your fuel, Saudi Arabia, I mean, you're going to have so much fun around that circuit, because it is lightning fast. It is so many overtaking opportunities, so many spinning opportunities, unlike Losail. So I think I'm gonna try and bend the rules, maybe join in again if I can, because I can't miss out that race.
I mean, I can understand from your point of view that you don't want to miss that race, because I'm definitely not going to miss it myself. But no, you've been awesome today. Really enjoyed my time with you. You know, we've had a great time for round 2 of Qatar. Hopefully you can join me next week. If not, then it looks like we just have to wait and see on the stream what the racing action is like. But guys, you've been awesome. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.